Yes, we're here from Lab Culture TV in Amsterdam at the Mashup, and I'm here with Mr. Ronald van den Hoff, and it's my pleasure to have him in interview today.
My pleasure as well, nice to meet you.
Mr. van den Hoff, zombies are actually dead people. What's a zombie economy? Will the perforated state and the perforated economy really merge into something new?
Well, zombies they're still moving, so they're like the living dead. And what we see that a lot of organizations nowadays and a lot of structures as we know them and people within those structures, they're moving, but they're already dead. So that's why I call it the zombie economy. It's a term I borrowed from Umar Haq, of the famous Harvard blogger. And it's people doing the same thing all over, and they're dying. I mean, large organizations are dying at this moment, literally. The only answer they have to the present crisis is just to fire people. The only solution the European Union has is just to cut back on spending. And it's all a negative approach, and that kills all creativity and all future growth. So, on the other hand, you can say, if you want to have something new, the old has to go. So the old has to die first. Creative destruction, as Schumpeter called it, and then it makes path to come up with something completely new, and that's a new society as well. We need that.
Yeah, the established brands, manufacturers and service providers, they are already eroding. And how can such a business turn into a company 3.0? Will all old companies make this step?
No, I'm sure that 75% of the companies as we know them today won't be there in 5 years. And if you think of that, that's going to have a huge impact. And the impact of these developments is even higher than most people think. And that will take for another 10, 15 years. This whole transformation phase between, let's say, the old and the new started early 90s. And there you see the first multinationals globally laying off hundreds of thousands of people. And that's where really this transformation phase started. So the majority of the organizations and company, as we know them, will not survive this.
So there will be new companies. I mean, at the moment, it's a good time to emerge on the market as a totally new player.
Yeah, definitely. If you come up with disruptive concepts, so you do really something new, and you create transformations with people, and you really add something, and you connect with people, and you appreciate people as such, and don't see them as merely paying bodies, then you have a good chance to create some new economic value.
So it's the crowdsourcing, open data, and peer-to-peer approaches combined, like a role model for a future society.
Yeah, well, old economic laws, they no longer valid, they don't work anymore. So from crowdfunding to crowdsourcing to peer-to-peer working, collaboration, collaborative consumptions, I mean, they're just words, but the movement behind is very clear. There's a collectiveness, and there's more equality in value networks. Basically, we're moving away from the value chain to the value networks. And in value networks, everybody has his own role and its own purpose.
And how can leadership in such a complex, networked and diverse society possibly evolve? Or do we govern ourselves?
Yeah, there will be a lot of self-steering and a lot of self-management, self-organization. And as a leader, you don't manage anymore. As a proper leader in Society 3.0, you facilitate those processes. You make things work. And that means if you have to train your people so they can be better, let's say self-organizers, I mean, you have to make that work. That's what your job is. And you have to make sure that within an organization, everybody shares the same vision and has the same, and that creates a certain type of culture automatically. You can't make a culture. So basically, as a leader, you become the ultimate facilitator of processes, to put it that way.
So the future won't look like a hybrid from Facebook, Amazon, global e-government and Google. It's something different.
Yeah, it's something different. But you see nowadays that all those groups forming, for instance, in social networks, that's just the first step. You see a lot of collaboration, you see a lot of peer groups, and they start working very enthusiastically. But then all of a sudden the energy is going away and they're dying. And that has to do with the fact that a lot of those groups, they're not really interconnect yet. And you have to interconnect either with other groups of people, and you have to interconnect with what's left of the traditional organizations. Whether that's a government, that's for me the same thing. And that interconnectivity, that openness, that's still missing at this moment. So obviously Google will be there, Facebook will be there, but a lot of other stuff will be there as well.
So one could say Society 3.0 would mark the triumph for the open and shareism movement?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, access to is more important than ownership. And if you start thinking in access, all of a sudden there's an abundance. There's an abundance of data. There's an abundance of people, of connected people. And with crowd sourcing and crowdfunding, there's an abundance all of a sudden of money and means and stuff like that. So if you start thinking properly in Society 3.0 terms, and you are prepared to leave everything we have learned so far on management and education and other stuff, there's a good chance, and it's definitely it's a sharing society. And sharing is not something like a socialistic thing. That's too traditional. That's too old-fashioned. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm in this life also to make some money. But that's not the most important thing anymore. Money really has become not a goal, but it's a purpose, or it's a mean, I should say. It's making money that makes other things possible. And I think that you will see networked organizations where sharing and reciprocity is as important, social capital is as important as euro capital, if we still have a euro. Yeah.
The digital revolution will be strong enough to eradicate or override today's paradigms.
Yeah, but it's not only the digital revolution. I mean, if you look at science and technology and bioscience, and I mean, there are tremendous breakthroughs. And if everything comes together at that moment, yeah, it's basically everything is possible. Look at the 3D printing and 3D copying stuff. And I mean, you can even copy computers. It's amazing. So we just started. It's not only digital, but it's the technical, it's the cultural, it's the interconnectivity, it's the change of power in this world. There's a power shift from the western to the eastern part, and all those things, when they come together, that's where you're going to see great things happening.
So we will go away from our beliefs in originality, uniqueness, property, copyright. Will the Bible survive it?
I'm sure the Bible will survive. Good stories who inspire. Stories inspiring people is always a necessity. Will always be there. There's always a purpose for that. But things of copyright and stuff like that, I mean, that industry is killing itself. It's as simple as that. So we're moving, whether people like it or not, to a kind of singularity, it's called, where everything is coming together. And there are even some scientists, they say that when singularity really happens, so everything is coming down together, it's the next step in the human evolution. So I will leave you with that.
How is privacy preserved when formal and informal relationships fall into one?
Yeah, privacy, it's a topic we have to address that. That's one of the new elements which are, let's say, having a lot of attention, obviously. And in the old days we didn't have privacy. If you were living in a village and I was dating your wife, you would know it, and the whole village would know it. So we didn't have privacy. So privacy is something when we started to claim stuff. This is mine, this is yours. On the other hand, organizations are misusing data and are misusing information. And that's where privacy is at stake then. On the other hand, if I tell to a certain bookseller on the internet what my my book buying behavior is, he may decide to give me a discount. So if I give away my own data, it doesn't breach my privacy. So we have to stay in charge of our own data. And that means we're going to have all kinds of robots and avatars on the internet, helping us to protect our data and to decide which portion of our data should we give to particular shops or suppliers or whatsoever. So as long as we stay in charge of our own data, privacy can't be an issue.
You work with the internet a lot. You're a trend watcher, and moreover, you're a hotelier and a caterer. When do you have time for a good meal with family and friends? That's something social media cannot replace, can it?
No. The more we do on the internet, the more possibilities there are to meet face to face again. We have time left. If I work, my productivity is so high. I work so efficient through the internet that I have plenty of time. I have more time left than in the old days, to spend with friends, family, and stuff like that. And not everything will go on the internet, every meetings. We see it nowadays already on the meeting market. You see, although we may not recognize it as such, in the old days you would have congresses and conventions and a board meeting and stuff like that. Now it's called Twitteratsie powwow, and it's called open coffee, and it's called a meetup, and it's called an unconference. So all of a sudden you see a lot of activity where people physically meet each other, although we still don't recognize that to be a replacement of the old face-to-face meetings. But it's still there and it's growing. As much as the digital era and as much as internet is growing, the face-to-face meetings, although you meet then and you do different things than in the old days, we see an increase in that. We see it.
Mr. van den Hoff, thank you very much for an inspiring talk.
You're welcome. My pleasure.